be heated, but it doesn't keep those hammies right. So that hamstring helper jumped up and bit him. I think that's a huge part of his game. I think his game is almost like, to me, like Josh Allen's, but I think he's a more polished and more accomplished thrower of the ball. And I think that's a huge part of his game, and I think that's a huge asset that's going to be missed. Now, if they continue to get the production from Gallman that he got last week, I think it'd be fine. But they're going to have to be able to really win from inside the pocket, and that defense is going to have to stop Kyler Murray, who I think presents a different problem than that of Russell Wilson. So let's see if they have to make a shootout, if Daniel Jones is going to be able to physically be able to carry the load.
It's some pretty intriguing quarterback matchups this weekend, whether it's the Cousins and Brady or whether it's Big Ben Roethlisberger and Josh Allen and Carr and Rivers. Which one are you looking forward to seeing most?
Well, for me, I think the game that is the most important is the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens, and just simply because we're trying to ask ourselves, we continue to try and convince ourselves for the better part of the last 3 years that Cleveland has arrived, right? But whenever we believe that Cleveland has arrived, they get beat up by Big Brother within the division, whether it's the Ravens and how they destroyed Cleveland the first matchup, the first game of the season, or whether it's the Steelers that kind of, gave them the atomic wedgie and put them in their place. So if they want to be taken seriously, they got to be able to show that they can beat the guys that have bullied them within their division. Last week, beating the Tennessee Titans was impressive because I think they out-physical one of the most physical teams in the game and controlled and contained Derrick Henry holding him to 60 yards. But Baker Mayfield, I want to know if this is fool's gold. If what we saw last week, how efficient he was going 20 or 25, and it was more about him throwing the ball. Is it real or is it fool's gold? And we're going to find out. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are getting healthy. Even if they lose to Cleveland, they're going to probably be 10-6 with how weak the rest of their schedule is.
Hold on, Bart. I'm going to push you now to become that habitual line stepper that you always tell me you are. Is it fool's gold? Is it fool's gold or is it not?
I believe it is. I think the recipe for success is continuing to turn around and hand the ball off to Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I think that was an admiration last week. And I think as soon as you start to buy into Baker Mayfield, he proves that you can't. He's a very streaky player. And if that run game, and he tried to do it twice against his Baltimore Ravens defense with those tremendous defensive backs, I think it'd be a mistake. I think the better part is you look at what Ezekiel Elliott was able to do last week, running the ball for over 4.4 yards a carry. I think you try and take that playbook, not believing in Baker Mayfield putting the ball up against Humphreys, Peters, Smith. They have some elite secondary in Baltimore. I think if they want to play with that one, I think we'll go back to saying that Baker Mayfield has more commercials than wins. If he wants to have more wins than commercials, he needs to turn around and hand the ball off, or he'll have a lot of time to go, go film some more commercials if you try and throw the ball at him too much.
Bart, you don't play for the Ravens anymore, man.
Don't let
listen, Key. Listen, Key. And you're not part owner in the Lakers and the Dodgers.
Get him, Bart. Get him, Bart. Okay, Bart. What team?
And
could
I'm
be
seeing you on the screen too. You'll miss about 8 shots with the paper, man. You need to get your average up. Jay Will, teach him how to keep that elbow aligned with the basket.
He be shooting it consistently. He's been making a lot lately, though. He's been on fire now. I'll give him that. All right, Bart. What team could be on the outside looking in for the playoffs? The Colts, the Vikings, the Ravens, or the Bucks?
For me, it's the Vikings. I don't know how real they are. Once again, we love Dalvin Cook, but I'm not a believer in Kirk Cousins. So I mean, we're going to see. It's weird because it feels like they had punted on the season when they traded Yannick Ngakoue after they spent money and gave draft equity to go get him. Now it seems like they're in the running. Nobody's paid attention to him. I think they have an outstanding receiver in the Jefferson kid, and I think he's going to be exciting to watch. He may end up being one of the best from this draft, but I just don't know if I can believe in this team, if this team is for real. Now, it's going to say a lot about their chances if they're able to beat Tampa, but they still have Tampa and New Orleans. We expect them to beat the Bears and the Lions, but they're going to have to win one that we don't expect them to win. And it's going to be tough sledding against Tampa if Tampa is on and playing well. If Bruce Arians and Tom Brady can come to some type of conclusion about how they want to go about playing and winning football games.
It's a great point. The Vikings started 1-5. They're now 6-6 with a gigantic game against the Bucs, who they can essentially get closer to, or perhaps even leapfrog if things sort of work out this weekend with the other games on Sunday. And then, of course, Bart, as a Ravens legend, will be looking forward to watching Monday Night Football on ESPN between Baltimore and Cleveland. I know you got your own show later today, too, so we'll let you go. Thank you, Bart.
I appreciate it.
Bart.
All right, Bart.
All right. You don't play for the Ravens anymore.
But he did play for the Ravens.
I'll be messing. Man, that's my dude, man. Come on now. You know that's how we roll.
So he brought up an interesting point. They have 4 games left, do the Vikings. 2 of those 4 are Tampa Bay on the road.
Yes.
New Orleans on the road. I want to mention the New Orleans game is in Week 16, so you have to kind of think about if it doesn't go just quite down to the stretch and maybe that the Saints have clinched the number 1 spot. You never know how that game could be played, but it's tight at the moment. The other 2 games, Bears-Lions. 2 challenging ones, 2 gimmies, or is there no such thing as a gimme?
There's no such thing as a gimme, but I would think in when you start to get on the back end of things, the Lions, they're getting ready for Christmas and New Year's, and the Bears are doing the same thing. So you kind of hope that they approach it with that mindset. It'll be interesting. The New Orleans game is interesting because if New Orleans has not clinched home field advantage throughout, then they have to play. Plus, they want to play anyway because of what has happened in the past against the Minnesota Vikings. You can't take them lightly if you're New Orleans because you've played against them in the postseason, and we all kind of know how those games have gone.
2 straight losses.
You also want Drew Brees coming back around that time. You want him to find his rhythm getting ready for the playoffs as well.
Yeah, you also want to do that, as Jay said.
Could possibly see Brees as early as this weekend. We're going to talk a little bit more about Jalen Hurts in a second. But if Brees is able to go in any sort of capacity, would you be more intrigued to see him return knowing what you got from him? Or do you need to see a little bit more here from Taysom Hill with the caveat that the last 2 years, the Saints are actually 8-0 without Drew Brees. 5 from Bridgewater,
cool.
3 from Taysom.
I'm cool with Taysom Hill. I'm good with Taysom Hill.
He's shown you enough.
Yeah, so if he can play this weekend, I'm not playing him anyway. If Drew Brees can play, not playing. I mean, go over there and sit down, put on a headset.
Is that because of the opposition?
No,
or
it's
what?
because it's a little bit of both. It's the opposition. I think we have enough to be competitive and beat them. Okay, they're starting a rookie quarterback that hasn't started a game in the league,
right.
And I think he's only thrown 20 passes.
Right.
I don't worry about that. I'm more worried about those barbecue ribs that is inside Drew Brees' body. I need to keep him healthy or get him healthy as possible. So when we get to week 15 and 16 and I need to play him moving into the playoffs so I can have home field advantage so I can get that bye week so his ribs can rest again, that's what I want to be able to do.
So with that being said, you probably let him relax against the Eagles and the Chiefs and have him bring him back versus the Vikings and then the Panthers, right?
Don't know that I'm going to have him relax against the Chiefs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Don't know about –
depending upon where he is
exactly
in the process.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not going out there with Taysom Hill against the Chiefs if I can go out there with Drew Brees.
More conversation on that young kid who's thrown just 20 passes. But first, it's SportsCenter.